bonjour, and welcome to another session of the Carlam Cymru lessons for 2023. This is the AS French session on pronunciation. There are four sessions that we'll be offering this year for AS French pronunciation, the subjunctive Card A speaking exam, and the direct and indirect object pronouns. So you could watch any of those sessions. There'll also be a live session at the beginning of February. So as I said, this session will look at pronunciation, in particular preparing you for the speaking exam. So bonjour, je m'appelle Madame Pritchard et je travaille à e-sgol Gymraeg Brodir. L'objectif, comment améliorer votre prononciation du français pour l'examen oral. So how to improve your pronunciation of French for the speaking exam. So for some people, one of the most difficult aspects of learning a foreign language is the pronunciation. So when we learn a foreign language, there are sounds that we're not used to making. So for example, with French, the nasal vowels, the back of the throat, and silent letters make French pronunciation one of the biggest obstacles in learning the language. So let's see if we can address some of these. So first of all, I'm sure when you started learning French, you looked at the alphabet and perhaps didn't understand why it was so important, but actually it's really important to look at pronunciation, phonics, the alphabet right at the start of learning a language to try to help you get into the habit of saying these sounds correctly rather than learning the incorrect pronunciation from the start, and then it's much harder to change. I'm sure I've got some bad habits myself. I'm not actually French, obviously, but looking at some of these points today in the lesson, hopefully will help us think, that's why we do that, and so on. So many of them perhaps are things that you've seen before, but maybe didn't quite realise their significance, perhaps. So I hope it'll be of some help to you anyway. So this is the alphabet. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So little things that maybe you were pointed out to when you learnt it is the kind of, I say, swapping around of the J and the J. Okay, so J is J and J is G. Another one is E and E, because many people, when they hear E, they think it's this letter here, but E is I and E is E. Perhaps Y as well, the E and Y, the Greek I. We have V et W, W. And we have Q and U. So you've got the U sound U and then the Q with the Q. Yeah, so it's actually quite useful to understand how the French alphabet works. And then we move on to some more phonics, so les francophoniques. So I've sort of categorized things as much as I can, group things together to try to help you. So the first thing I'm looking at is les accents. So these are the accents that you will find in French. So we have the C with a little tail underneath, or the squiggle, la cédille, the cédilla. Then we have the accent aigu, which is the accent that goes up, which you'll find on the E. Then we have the accent circonflexe. So that's sort of the little roof that we would find on some of the vowels, the circumflex. Then we have the accent grave, which goes the opposite direction to the accent aigu. So you've got A, E, and U. And then the final one is le tréma, which is the umlaut. It's a word that I'd never come across before. I always call it trema, so I was obviously wrong. The two dots above certain vowels as well. So these of the accents, we're going to look at them one at a time now. So it's a pronunciation from a hard C into a soft C, from a cat to a S. So in French, as in English, the letter C makes the soft sound S in front of E, I, and Y, and the hard K sound in front of A, O, and U. So if you add the cedilla to the cat, then it makes it softer. So instead of being cat, it would be sa. Okay, so that's the purpose of la cedille. So some common words with a cedilla are garçon, ça va, français. This is probably very obvious, but I'm just explaining why, just in case. So France doesn't have a cedilla because the cat becomes before the air, so that's already a soft sound. However, in français, the C is followed by an A, and the A would have naturally been the hard K sound, so that's why we put the cedilla on it to make it softer. So if you didn't know it before, now hopefully you understand why the cedilla is used, the little tail under the C. French sometimes uses the cedilla in their verb tenses to keep the pronunciation correct. So for example, the past participle of recevoir is reçu. So normally that would be reçu because of the U. As I said, the U would have taken the hard cat sound. So if we put the little cedilla on it, it keeps the same sound. So recevoir, reçu. The C sounds the same in both words, thanks to the cedilla. So there's the verb recevoir, and you can see then avoir reçu is the passé composé form. And you can see here as well, je reçois, etc. Because of the O, they've added the cedilla there and there, but it's not needed before the E because it's already soft. Number 2 is the accent aigu. So that's the one that goes up. It's the most common French accent mark, and it only appears over the letter E. So E with the acute accent is pronounced E. Think of the way you say the vowels way and say, and then stop before you get to the Y. So E, way, say. Yeah, so you stop before the Y. Some common words with an accent aigu are je suis allé, fatigué, amusé. So often on verbs, it indicates that it's in the past tense. Not always, but pretty much, I think. It usually implies the past tense. Okay. Number 3 is the accent grave, which goes the opposite way, and it's used with A, E, and U. So the accent grave has a few different uses. So when it appears above an E, you pronounce it like the E in bear, so air, rather than A going up, air going down. When it appears over A or U, it's to differentiate between two words with the same spelling. So for example, U and U. So U is or and U is where. So where the accent is telling us that it's a different word. A and A. So A could be il a un chien, he has a dog, but A with the accent could be tu. And then la and la. So la as in the and la as in there. So often the accent is used just to differentiate between two words with the same spelling. There are exceptions, as always, like voilà and déjà, which were originally contractions of words that use the accent grave. So basically a contraction is where they put two words together. Some words have more than one accent, as I'm sure you're aware. For example, we have élève, so one goes up, the accent aigu, and then the accent grave comes down. So air, élève. The same here, we have déjà, so déjà, and préfère, and préféré. Now, some of my students, most what GCSE, get mixed up sometimes between préfère and préféré. So if there's one going up, one going down, je préfère, I prefer. But préféré, where they all go up, is favorite. Okay. Here are some examples. Musée, of just the pronunciation with the certain accents. Musée, because there's accent aigu. Collège, going down. Collège. Frère also goes down. Je préfère, we've just seen, an accent aigu, an accent grave. J'ai mangé indicates the past tense there. J'ai mangé. Café. Tête, there's a circumflex there. Règle, going down. Préféré, as we saw, favorite. Élève, accent aigu, accent grave. Classe, and bière. Okay, so just some examples of the accents there. There are three main reasons for the accent circumflex. So the first reason is to help with pronunciation. So it can indicate how to pronounce the vowel it's over. So A becomes A as in tache. E becomes E as like the accent grave as in pêche. And O becomes O, like the French pronunciation of AU, O, so to. So that's the first use of the accent circumflex to help with pronunciation. The second reason for using it would be to separate it from other words, as we saw in on the last but one slide. So it also helps distinguish between other homonyms, such as du, of the, and du, had to. So they sound the same, they look the same, but the circumflex shows us that this is the past participle. Sur and sur, so on and sure. Mûr, wall, and mûr, ripe. Okay, so sometimes, like as we saw with the E, with the accent grave and with the U and the A, sometimes it can just distinguish between two words that have the same or similar spelling. And the third reason for using it is to indicate a missing letter. So sometimes it's a remnant of the past. So forêt, for example, looks like the English word for forest. So in linguistic terms, they're cognates. I'm sure you've heard of cognate. It's basically a word that's very similar in French and English. And English and French share much of their languages with Latin. So they have many similar words, but somewhere along the line, the French stopped pronouncing the S, and instead they replaced it with E circumflex to show that they dropped the letter. So if we go back to the example here, so forest, the S was dropped and the circumflex was added instead of the S. So forest became forêt. Okay. It's like in an English contraction where the apostrophe shows that there is a dropped letter. More examples are hôpital, hospital, côte, coast, and and hotel, hostel. Okay, so you can see there that the final reason is to indicate a missing letter. Number 5, the purpose of le tréma is to tell you to pronounce consecutive vowels. This is probably a little bit more tricky. Normally, the French language does not like two vowel sounds together and makes specific rules to combat this. So, for example, dropping the vowel of le and la, the E and the A, in front of a noun that starts with a vowel, such as in l'accent, is a perfect example. Okay, so they don't like le accent. So instead, they've made a rule that it becomes l'accent, to make the pronunciation smoother, okay? Sometimes, though, you just need to have that second vowel sound. So sometimes the two vowels together are important for certain reasons. So that's where the umlaut, or tréma, comes in. There's a new word here, and well, maybe some of you knew it before. Most famously, it's found in Noel, Christmas. In English, we leave off the tréma, although some linguists suggest that we should leave it in. So, for example, I don't know if you've ever seen re-evaluate, because we actually do pronounce the two E's, and cooperation because we pronounce the two O's. So some linguists believe that there should be an umlaut or a tremor over the second vowel to show that we do pronounce it. In French, you have to have the tremor, or the two or maybe three vowels will only make one sound. So for example, mais, as in but, it just makes one single sound. But maïs, you actually sound the I because of the tremor for maize. Interesting. In adjectives ending in GU, the feminine form is GUE. The problem is GUE is pronounced just G, like in the English word vague. Okay, so we just say the G. So in certain cases, to remind you to pronounce the last U sound, we can add the tremor over the U. So, for example, the adjective aigu becomes aigu, okay, to show us that we pronounce the U when it's in its feminine form. Okay, so they were all of the accents, okay. Perhaps that was very basic for you, but sometimes perhaps you've never actually learned about it and you've just accepted it and learned certain pronunciations of words. But now hopefully when you come across new words, some of these points might help you with the pronunciation of those new words. So B is les liaisons. So qu'est-ce que c'est que faire la liaison? Quand on parle de faire la liaison en français, il s'agit de prononcer la dernière consonne muette qu'il y a à la fin d'un mot et de la lier au début du mot suivant qui commence par une voyelle. Okay, so I'm going to explain that again now. So liaison is when you pronounce the ending consonants of some words if it's followed by a vowel or the letter H. So an example would be here. So we have les and we have enfant. So les enfants. But you would actually do a liaison here. So the S would become a Z sound because E is a vowel on the next word. And this process is called l'enchaînement, so word linking. Okay, so certain silent letters will be pronounced if it's followed by a vowel. There's a link here if anybody wants to have a little look. I'm sure there are lots of videos and websites online that explain this as well if you want a bit more practice. Oh, here's another one. Un exemple. So un exemple becomes un exemple. So we say the N. And des exemples, the S becomes a Z sound and we liaise them together. Right, les liaisons interdites, so forbidden liaisons. So these are ones that we don't do. So before H aspirate, so on, O. Les héros, before ons and we, les 11 enfants, and deux oui et un non. Okay, we don't liaise them. After names are proper nouns like Robert, a, Canson, Paris, et très beau. So we don't liaise those either. After singular nouns, mon chat aime jouer, mon chat aime jouer. So there's no liaison there. And garçon, intelligent. And we don't liaise there either. So singular nouns. After et, so avant, et après. We don't say et après. After interrogative adverbs and toujours. So interrogative adverbs are question words. Comment est-elle? So there's no liaison there. And toujours aimable. There's no liaison there. And after inversion, so parlez-vous espagnol? Okay. There. Okay. So they are forbidden liaisons. And then les liaisons facultatives is optional liaisons where it's pretty much up to you. So some liaisons are optional, so it's up to you whether to pronounce them. More liaisons means more formal speech. So fewer liaisons means more informal or familiar speech. So I've got some examples here. I found this picture, and I'm not sure it's saying this completely comprehensive, but it could be of help. So you've got here the green are where you do use the liaison, and the red is where you don't. Okay. So we have here Paul joue avec ses amis. So the liaison there would be here. So liaison obligatoire, so ses amis. Okay, so we liaise that and the S becomes a Z. I'm going to go over sounds in just a moment. So if we look, sorry, if we go back here, then we can see ses amis. Yeah, okay, but ses amis. Michel est un enfant intelligent. So this one is liaison interdite. So enfant intelligent, we do not liaise there because it's a singular noun. Okay. And then Pierre et son frère vont à l'école. So liaison facultative, you could say vont à l'école or vont à l'école. It depends how formal or informal you'd like to be. So I've just put that picture on a bigger slide in case you wanted to have a little look at it. This then is a list of some of the letters that change their sounds if they're followed by a vowel with a liaison. So for example, here, un grand escargot, so the D changes to a T sound, un grand escargot. Here we have deux enfants, so the X changes to a Z sound, deux enfants. Je suis heureux, another Z sound there, je suis heureux. And j'aime mes amis, again, another Z sound. Okay, some of them stay the same and some of them change. Okay, so for example, the F becomes a V. Okay, and I've put in the signs there to help you out. I should have put them coming in at the right time. So un grand escargot, deux enfants, je suis heureux, mes amis. Okay, moving on now to the guttural R, so the R, which many of us find pretty difficult. So it's often considered challenging and may take some practice. It is pronounced at the back of the throat by vibrating the root of the tongue against the throat. Here are some examples. There's a picture there if that helps at all. So we have rue, regarder, partir, respirer, frère, rouge. So I've put a little cat purr in there because when in school with my younger pupils, I tend to practice sounding like a cat, purring like a cat to help them get that sound in the back of their throats. Probably with hindsight, I should have put this before the liaisons. For les lettres muettes, so silent letters, dans certains mots, il existe des lettres qui ne se prononcent pas. Ce sont des lettres muettes. So here are some pictures to explain it. But possibly you've heard of this little word, I should say, careful. So have you heard of the careful letters? If a French word ends with C, R, F, or L, so these consonants, the final letter is usually pronounced. Otherwise, the final letter is silent. Words ending with B, K, and Q also have their final letters pronounced. So you think of Burger King and Queen. So le club and steak and cinq. So those letters are pronounced. Most other consonant letters are not pronounced at the end of a word. So for example, foie, dragon, parfum, coup, riz, deux, vin, stylo, oiseau. Okay, so you can see those letters. Put them in orange. Most letters will be silent at the end. Of course, like with most grammatical rules, there are exceptions. So, for example, un truc, and we've got the C of careful, le chef, the F of careful, and avril, the L of careful. So, most often there are always exceptions to the rules. And verbs ending, not endong, ending in ER have a silent R, so aimer, manger, tuer. We don't say aimer. Okay, so that's verbs ending in ER. Right, autre son phonique important, so other important phonic sounds, which you've probably seen before. So we have AI is A, so j'ai, les, fait. AIN is un, so pain, américain. AN is on, like anglais, français, on. AU is au, jaune, au revoir. The C, which we've seen already with a cedilla, sounds like an S, a soft C. So ça va, français, garçon. CH, ch, cheval, chien, chat, chateau. A word ending with a D will be silent, so chaud, canard. Got some more silent letters there, if that helps you. Okay, so les, fait, anglais, français, on. I just put some of the silent letters there to help you. Then we have E on its own is just like E, so as in the alphabet sound. So le, je, ne. E, accent aigu, or EZ is pronounced AY, so A. So café, jouer, aller, cinéma. E with an accent grave is R, so père, mère, frère, collège. EAU, O, as in O, beau. EN is on, as in on. Comment, Henri. EU is, is E, as in deux, and jeudi. G or GU is G, as in garder, dialogue. Oops, pardon. And GEGI is J, as in génial, rouge. Okay, so it depends which vowel the G is followed by. And then GN is N, as in Espagne, araignée. And then H will be silent. So if its word begins with H, oui or huit. Hamster, hôtel, hôpital, heureux, and heure. And then IE, IT, IS is E, so il, avril, merci, biologie. And then ILLE is il, so ville, famille. And then IM is am, impossible, important, imbécile. IN is on, so juin, 5, lapin, 20, intéressant. And the G is je, as in je, jouer, déjeuner. Silent letters there. And then ON is on, bonjour, mon, bon, 11. OI is wa, as in moi, toi, au revoir, oiseau, 60. OU is ou, as in ou, joue, bonjour, oublier, sous. And bonjour is a funny one actually, because a lot of French people have told me that they can often tell from the first word English speakers, but because they say bonjour. So saying bonjour gives you a bit of a chance of tricking them to think that you're actually French. QU is a cat sound, so quatre, quinze, quart, quand. R would be a R, as in rêve, rendre. S in the middle will be a Z sound, like cousin, saison. SE is Z also, so grise, rose. And words ended in T will be silent. So, for example, we have fini and jouer. And then finally, we have the U, which is U, une sur rue. You I is oui. So oui, oui, suis aujourd'hui. And UN is un, so un lundi brun. UNE is u, so une lune. X would be an S, so 60 and 10. And at the end, if it's the last letter, it would be silent. So rideau and chateau. And then we have the Z at the end of a word is E, so avez chanté. Yeah, so there's lots and lots, and I'm sure I haven't even remembered them all, so I'm sure I've missed a few out. But hopefully that gives you enough to work on. So the j sound, I'm sure you all know this already.
Je.
Je. J'ai. Je suis. And bonjour. And je. So that j sound is really, really useful. Now then, all of these groups of letters all have the same phonic sound. So they all sound like A, as in me, okay? So we have j'ai joué au foot, vous jouez au foot, il jouait au foot, j'aime le foot et le rugby, j'aime jouer au foot in the infinitive, je jouais au foot in the imperfect, and il jouait au foot, the imperfect third person plural. So you can see all of these sounds, although they're different tenses and different meanings, they all have the same sound. So it's pretty important that you remember that. Similarly, an, on, en have the same sound, and then in. So, for example, anglais, oncle, enfant. So they all have the on sound. And in makes the an sound. Intéressant, enfant, and lapin. Okay, it's not an I, it's an A sound. Intéressant, mince, fantastique, intelligent, en France, vin, décevant, pans, singe, cousin. Some more, so we have bois, poisson, vin, jeu, vidéo, les ciseaux, les dents, le pain, le midi, la poule, la lune, maison, la tête, la sorcière, le gorille, les frites, Espagne, la pollution, la question, le requin. So, some just to give it a go. So, how would you say these words? Okay. So what we'll do is in the session at the beginning of February, we'll go over these to see if you had them right. You can pause the recording if you want to have a practice. Okay, just a bit of fun to finish off. And again, we'll do some of these together in the live session. Les virelangues peuvent être un bon moyen d'améliorer la prononciation. So tongue twisters. Toi, tortue, trottais sur un trottoir très étroit. So the picture says there are 3 tortoises trotting on a very straight pavement. Okay, so it's just les virelangues. These tongue twisters are just ways of helping you practice the pronunciation, and they're a bit of fun as well. So, toi, tortue, trottais sur un trottoir très étroit. So, let's give it a go. And like I said, we'll practice these more in the live session in February. So you can have a little look at some of these. So, à chacun son choix, se dit sa sœur Sylvie suivant son chemin. Ce vers, c'est vers, c'est versé, c'est vers, vers. Je cherche Serge. That one's tricky. Je cherche Serge. 5 chiens, chat, 6 chats. Dans tâton, tâton, tâton. La mule du juge bute contre le mur. Ce glouglou a voulu tout ce qu'il a vu sur le menu. La robe rouge de Rosalie est ravissante. Lily lit le livre dans le lit. La saule a salé son lit, mais la mère a lavé le lit que la saule a salé et la saule rissole dans la casserole. On part de la gare Saint-Lazare pour les ports de la mer du Nord. Que ces creux vont devoir crever une crevette sur la cravate d'un homme crevé dans une crevasse. Si ceci se sait, ses soins sont sans succès. Son chat chante sa chanson. Posez vos gros pots d'eau au chaud. Toi, tortue trottée sur un trottoir très étroit. We've seen that one. Bit of fun to practice for you. So, comment réussir? Just to finish. First thing I would like to plug is Duolingo. I have no shares in Duolingo, but I do think that it can be a really good way of practicing your pronunciation, because you can click the little what would it be called, the speak button, and you can listen again to the pronunciation and hear when they are liaising, when they're using silent letters, different sounds, and so on. So I do recommend Duolingo. There's also a phonics website. There's lots of phonic videos online if you want to practice. So how to succeed? I would say listen to French songs, podcasts, videos, anything you can to hear the French pronunciation much better than me. You know, I'm Welsh, I've learnt it. But if you go online, you can hear some lovely French songs and podcasts, you know, films, TV programs, read texts aloud. Okay, what I find is, because I taught myself Spanish as well, is when I read it in my head, I'm really good. I sound really good. But then when I actually say it and read it aloud, I think, oh, that doesn't sound as good as it did in my head. So read texts aloud to practice the pronunciation and give you confidence. Watch French films or TV. Practice speaking French aloud as much as possible to improve your confidence. Even if you're in the shower or in the car, in your bedroom, and you're on your own, just talk to yourself in French. Just say what you're doing. You know, oh, je prends une douche, je suis très contente. You know, anything just so that you're practicing speaking French as much as possible. The more you speak, the more it improves your confidence. And revise the rules, okay? Yeah, so vous avez des questions? If you have any questions, we have the live session at the beginning of February, so come along and we'll try to help you as much as we can. Not that I say I know everything. So, l'objectif, comment améliorer votre prononciation du français pour l'examen oral? So I think we've done that, hopefully. And if you have any other questions, please bring them along at the beginning of February. So bonne chance, good luck, and au revoir.